are joined right off the bat by a special guest, Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk. Mike, we're so happy to start the show with you today.
So you're just starting the show, and you're foregoing your usual 15 minutes of talking about whatever bullshit might come up. I don't mean that in a pejorative way. You've foregone all of that just for me.
Yeah, well, because we want all your bullshit
I'm touched.
On this.
I got plenty.
You're exactly right. That's exactly how we would start. Every time we're on the road, that's how a show starts. It's just talking about what happened
just
last night.
Just grab somebody and off we go. But the normal day exactly. You got to ease into it. And there's always something to talk about. But Super Bowl week, it gets crazy, and you just grab whoever you can get, whenever you can get them, and off you go. We're doing the same thing. Like, I have no idea today what our show is going to be. You just sit down and you go, and hey, here's this guy. All right, let's go. Here's that guy. Hey, let's go. And the whole week is like that. And it just gets worse and worse, and it reaches a fever pitch, and we're talking on the way over. By the end of the week, you finally get used to it, and then it's over. You finally make the mental adjustment to this strange existence, and it's done. Yeah,
it's so true. So let's dive even further in with this, Mike. When will the Broncos knock off the Chiefs and win the AFC West, win the AFC, be competing for Super Bowls?
Well, hey, look, with Sean Payton and Bo Nix, this is the combination that I think the Broncos were hoping for. Another Drew Brees, a younger Drew Brees, a more athletic Drew Brees, and Sean Payton with still who knows how many years left in the tank. He's early 60s. He could go another 15 years if he wants to. You want to have these two guys joined at the hip, and you want them to carry forward, kind of like what the Chiefs have. And so I don't think it's all that far away. They had that. I mean, not that anybody wants to be reminded of it, but they had that game won. You just execute the field goal, and you beat the Chiefs in their own building. And Week 18, I mean, it was the Chiefs' B team, but still, there's something about going out on the field and seeing those uniforms and beating that team. So I wouldn't rule it out. The Chiefs keep finding ways to win close games because they are the masters of rising up in the key moments and making things happen. And I think that's the big thing for the offseason the Broncos need to do. And I would even dig it all the way down to, like, sports psychology for the players. So when the players get in those moments for the Broncos or for other teams, they don't yield, and they don't let themselves think it's deja vu all over again. And while the Chiefs are thinking we're going to find a way to pull it off, you don't want the Broncos, the Chargers, the Raiders, the other teams to be thinking, oh, no, we're going to find a way to blow it.
So the Broncos, you talk about Sean Payton, Super Bowl winning head coach. Bo Nix is playing well. The defense played out of their minds this year. What are they missing? Are they 1, 2, 3 players away from being a Super Bowl contender?
I'm not a big fan of the running back rotation. I know that's been a staple for Sean Payton. I'd like a guy who is the every down bulldozer who gets better as the game goes on, and by the time you get to the fourth quarter, the defense sees him coming, and they're like, oh, God, we got to tackle this guy again. I'd like that if they could do it. I think the receiver position could use some help. You always want to invest in your offensive line. When you have a great quarterback, somebody was telling me this yesterday, when you have a great quarterback, it creates other expenses, like all the way down to your 6th and 7th offensive lineman. You better be spending good money on that guy because you never want to put your quarterback in position to have less than protecting him. So it just kind of changes everything. I think the team has been pleasantly good on defense, and Vance Joseph, it's funny. For all the guys who get head coaching buzz in the season, there'd need to be 30 openings. Like, every team would have to fire the coach for all these guys to get hired. But it's, if you have a team that's starting to move in the right direction and you selfishly want to hold it together, you hope that guy doesn't leave. And Broncos fans hoping Vance Johnson doesn't get a job. Vikings fans hoping Brian Flores doesn't get a job. And the way it stands right now, neither guy is going to be gone. That helps a program that's driven by an offensive head coach really continue to improve. And I think that's been the most unexpected surprise for the Broncos, the rise of its defense under Sean Payton.
Yeah, I'm curious, watching Bo Nix this season, if there's anything about the way he played that surprised you, if there's anything that wasn't what you expected.
I think processing is the most important thing for any quarterback, and being able to understand before the play starts where you're going to go with the ball, and to be able to adjust on the fly when there are complications, to have the athleticism to run away and to make things happen. There's running the play that's called, and there's coming up with a play on the fly and making it happen. Now, fewer in the category of Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, but I feel like Bo Nix has enough of that more, because Drew Brees was the ultimate, I'll run the play exactly as it's called, and it will work 90% of the time. And I think Bo's got a little bit of that. I can make something else happen, even if it's just buy a little time and reset. But it's just being able, because you saw what it was like last year with Russell Wilson trying to run Sean Payton's offense. To have a guy who can run the offense the way Payton has designed it, that's the best news. And he just feels like a bigger, stronger version of Brees. And it's amazing what Brees did. In the history of sports, Drew worked with us for a year at NBC, and I always love when I find a quarterback that's my size. It makes me feel good.
Me too.
Right? And I was like, man, this guy's not very big, and there's nothing about him that just jumps off the page physically, but he could just play and he could process, and that's the key. Process pre-snap, process post-snap, all the way through to when you make that last read and you get ready to throw. And I think Nix has that. And he's the student that the teacher, that the master is looking for. Like Mr. Miyagi of football was looking for the right – what was the kid's name? LaRussa, Daniel LaRussa.
Uh-huh.
He was looking for the right Daniel LaRussa, and he found it.
So then with Bo.
I almost said Tony LaRussa, which is
Yeah, it's a different guy.
What is Bo's ceiling? And I know that's a tough question to sometimes look at, but I mean, you mentioned how Sean wants his next Drew Brees. Can he be not necessarily a Hall of Famer, but is he a guy that can lead this team for 15 years from what you saw in the first year?
I think just for the first year, the question is, do you check pass or do you check fail? Yeah. You check pass. Let's see what a full offseason does, where he's the guy and they're working to build the team around him, and we see where it goes from here. What does year 2 do? How much do other defenses figure out the things he does well, the things he doesn't do well, the old Belichick approach, force him to do the things he doesn't want to do? When you've got a full season of film and you've begun to figure out what Bo Nix is all about, what will Sean Payton do to counter that? So I think it's a lot of those things. The progression from year 1 to year 2 is going to be the key. Will he get better? Will he stay the same? Will he regress? We'll find out.
Yep.
Now, this team, I feel like it had a much better year than everybody expected, but unexpectedly this offseason we've lost a lot of head coaches and assistant GMs and I guess coaching free agency.
Yeah.
Should the team be nervous that we'll take a step back, or under Sean Payton is the ship headed in the right direction?
It's true for keeping Vance Joseph. There were some defections, and the quality of the staff is one of those underrated things that we're not in position to really scrutinize and drill down on, but you've got to be ready to make good hires and find good people, and you got to be thinking about who your replacements are going to be. The Lions are going through that, where they've lost both coordinators and plenty of other assistants. You better be ready to go, and it speaks to your knowledge of the league at large, where you can go multiple levels deep at all of the various jobs, whether it's George Payton, who's been around for a long time in the front office, Sean Payton with the coaching staff. Where do we find, who do we know, who do we trust, who's smart, who's capable, who's committed, who can we really just kind of put in that job and not worry about it? I think that's the key. And when you have coaches who have been around for as long as Payton and GMs who have been around as long as the other Payton, you're in a position to I think, tap into that knowledge and hopefully not miss a beat.
Yeah, it's interesting because they built basically like that 3-headed special team staff when Sean Payton first got here with Mike Westhoff and the other guys. You move on from all of them this year, and all of a sudden you've got Darren Rizzi out there, who everybody's connecting with the Broncos, who is the interim head coach for the Saints. Like, it seems like there's one of those guys right there who should be really, really good at that job, and because Sean has worked with him before, just an easy fit.
There it goes. Just, he's going to clog the toilets like he said he did before his first game as interim head coach. And I'm surprised he didn't deliberately clog the toilets every game after that, just out of superstition. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, but that's when you've been in the league as long as you have. You've got those tentacles, and you know who you want to work with again, and you also know who to avoid. If you work with somebody in the past and it hasn't worked out, you cross the guy off the list. So that's the benefit of getting an experienced coach, an older coach. Ageism is a thing in the NFL. Teams will say we want younger, fresher coaches, but you get the benefit of wisdom, and you get the benefit of experience, and you get the benefit of connections that a guy like Sean Payton has.
Mike, final one for you. We really appreciate the time. You are as connected to this league as anyone is out there. There's a couple of big names that in the past 24 hours have gone on the market or have tried to put themselves on the market. Myles Garrett, Cooper Kupp. Should the Broncos be interested in either of those guys? Do you think they'll be interested in either of those guys?
Well, for Garrett, it's going to be, is he interested in them? And I think what the Browns should do, if they're willing to trade him, and you never know what ownership's going to do. You can never rationally predict the behavior of the irrational. We know Jimmy Haslam has been irrational at times. Deshaun Watson trade case in point. But the Texans set that up basically as you were pre-approved for the loan on the house. They had a deal in place with 4 different teams as to what they would get if any of those teams acquired Deshaun Watson. Then it's up to Watson. He picks his team. The Browns should do that with Myles Garrett. pre-approved 4 or 5 teams, and then Garrett sits down with those teams and he decides who he wants. And would the Broncos be one of them? I think he's looking for a more clear, obvious, this is a Super Bowl contender. With Cooper Kupp, I think what's going to happen here, I mean, we tried to look at all the angles last night on PFT. I think they're going to have to cut him. He's due to make $7.25 million early in the league year in March, $12.5 million non-guaranteed base salary. They're not going to find a team to take that on. They might have to pay, the Rams might have to pay a large amount of that to find a team to take it on, and then you're basically paying for draft picks. I think the best approach from Kupp's perspective, especially because you don't want to have your new team have to give up draft picks to get you. You want to go in unfettered. You get more money if they don't have to give up draft picks to get you. Get cut, and then would the Broncos be a potential team? You know, I'm sure Sean Payton has his opinions about Cooper Kupp and how he'd fit into that offense.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And wait, one final one for you.
Do I get to try to make one before I go?
Yeah, you gotta try.
Got to.
Absolutely.
Oh!
It's good.
That is incredible.
That was really good.
Let's see if you can deliver just as good a news here. Obviously, we're from Denver. How will the Chiefs lose this Super Bowl
That's
this
a
year?
great way to put it. If the Chiefs lose the Super Bowl, it'll be because the Eagles came out and just absolutely kicked their asses. You cannot beat the Chiefs. You have to kill them.
For sure.
You can't let it be close. All 3 of their wins, down 10 points in the second half. No big deal. And I even suggested that the Eagles should have worn white shirts instead of green shirts for this one, because you're going to have that deja vu all over again moment. You're going to have that, we've been here before. This is a weird thing. And I said this earlier. The Chiefs are going to believe they can get it done. And there's going to be guys who played in that game 2 years ago thinking, oh, shit, here it comes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
No,
that's
that's
good.
great. We prefer that.
Shit, piss, balls.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. You want to go 2 for 2? Or are you going to end it at 1 for 1?
You know what? I would ordinarily walk, but I think I can nail it again.
Let's do it.
Hey!
With the heavy
it.
leg, too. Thank you, Mike.
thank you,
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Awesome to have Mike Florio on. Great insight and